All right, it is 8 o'clock, so good morning, everyone. As it says up there, welcome to the last week of class. Today is day 49 of 52. It is Monday, the 14th of August. I am taping. As you can see here, and as I sent in the email this morning, today and tomorrow, I'm going to be showing you my mostly complete final project. I'm going to run over everything with you. The only thing I don't have totally done yet are the reviews, and I will work on that tonight. If I get that done tonight, then I'll meet up with you again tomorrow and show you what I did there. So, as it says, I am asking you as best you can to replicate what I have done. I'm going to send you some of the associated files later today. It'll be most of the database stuff. You're welcome to use what I'm using. If you'd rather use your own stuff, it's totally fine as well. As it says there, I wanted to create a video on this weekend, but stuff got in the way. I was at the hospital with my daughter yesterday for several hours. She's fine. She gave birth to a little boy. He's fine. Her husband's fine. Everybody's doing very well. All right. So today and tomorrow, we're going to go over this program, okay? Wednesday and Thursday will both be lab. Now, notice as it says in there, I have extended the due date. This is the latest I can do it. The end of class on Thursday. So come 2:30 on Thursday, I'm going to be grading. And if I grade until midnight Thursday, that's fine with me. But I'm going to be done grading at that time. And grades will be submitted. So if you don't have work in by that time, it'll go into the grade book as a 0, and it's an irrevocable 0. That's just the way that it is. I'm trying to be as fair as I can. You may or may not agree with that. And speaking of that, just so you know, you may have already gotten an email, or you will get one this week that asks you to please do an online evaluation of the course. Typically, and I don't get a copy of this, but typically this evaluation has been threefold. You evaluate the course. In other words, did it do everything that it was supposed to be doing? And you can find all that stuff in your on your syllabus under the course objectives. So number one, did the course achieve its objectives? Number two, you evaluate the instructor. All I've ever asked is that people be honest. If you think there was something I did badly, please put it down. If there's something I didn't do badly or I did well, or you'd like to continue see me doing, put that down as well. The only way I can improve is via feedback. Finally, you have a review of the book. Was the book good for the class, etc. All right. And like I said, now last semester, probably only about a third of the people turned in evaluations. All right. Please turn them in and please read them too. All right. Where at the college I used to work at, they had a thing in there where you were supposed to grade the class and the instructor and the book on 1 to 5, where 1 was the poorest and 5 was the best. And almost every semester I had one or more students who gave all 1s. And then on the other side, when you were supposed to give comments, they said the class was great. Please don't change anything. Well, they just didn't read the instructions, so I'm asking you to do that. And again, please fill those out. All right. Again, finally, and I know this is a little redundant, but look at your current grades. Now, I know some of you, maybe even some of you watching live right now, I have gotten a little bit behind on grades. If you've sent me an email in the last week, I will be grading today and tomorrow. I will upgrade the grade book immediately as soon as I get done. Now, if you do have work that's missing or that you just haven't turned it in, also turned in something, not for those of you who've already emailed me, but if you turn in something and then you want me to grade it, it's already going to be late. So email me and let me know what you turned in. And with some of you, you've got half a dozen or more repositories, GitHub repos. Let me know what repo it's in. All right. And again, finally, as it says in there, if you turn in anything late, all right. So I'm going to start, and I'll probably start on Thursday by looking at first the electronic portfolios. So if you don't have an electronic portfolio turned in by 2:30 on Thursday, you get a 0. And again, if you think that's unfair, put that down in the course evaluation. All right. Okay. And again, your final project and your e-portfolio are both due by 2:30 p.m. on Thursday. All right. So with all that said, let's go back, and I know we've done this before, but I want to do it again just for a couple minutes. And that is, I want to look at what this book is supposed, or this final project is supposed to have in it. I'm not worried about any of this stuff here. I'm more worried about the way it's supposed to look. All right. Now, mine doesn't say Barnes and Nobles here. I don't know why he put that. But the idea, what I wanted you to do was this, and it's a little more extensive than what's shown on the screen. You were supposed to have some kind of a splash page. So when the program began running, it looked a certain way. I will show you how mine looks. You may have already seen it if you watched last week. You may not have. I have not really changed it. You're also supposed to implement. I've done that. I asked you also to create some kind of a help page. I've done that. Then the other 2 pages should basically look pretty much like this. Now, do I have this working? Yes, and I'm going to show you. I didn't put in pagination, but one thing that I did mention was that if you go to your book, all right, and I'm going to log in here and bring up the book. And I don't remember what chapter it was in, but I think it was in chapter 22. There it is, page 735 in your book. Now, you won't be able to use this exactly the way it is, but it shows you in here how you can go in and implement paging. All I'm asking is that you try. All right. This particular last final project is worth 200 points. And in my opinion, if it looks like you spent about 10 minutes on it and threw some stuff out there to see what sticks, your grade won't be very good. But I'm going to show you again a version that works in just a minute. All right. And it should look at least something like that. All right. So that's the first thing. Again, page 735, I think it was. Yeah. All right. Next. The idea is you can come in here, and what I've done in here, it says search by name or ISBN. I didn't put the name part in. I can, but I just put the ISBN in there. I just made an ISBN search. So if I put an ISBN search in there, and then this should be empty, and I click search, then in here, it should find the one record if there is one with that ISBN. Again, you want to make yours name or ISBN, that's fine. Mine is just ISBN. Here, if I click the down arrow, and if I don't have Edgar Allan Poe, but if I did, you'll notice that here we have at least 11 books. How do I know that? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books here. There's a page 2 with 5 books, and there's a page 3 with somewhere between 1 and 5 books. All right. Also, again, mine doesn't look exactly like this. I didn't put in details like this. With mine, and I'll show you exactly what I did later, I promise. But with mine, if you take, let's imagine these are 5 different books right here. If you take your cursor and you click on a book, then it immediately moves you to this page where you get the picture of the book, the name of the book, the year the book was published, the ISBN number for the book, the author of the book, and the ability. Now I haven't reviews yet. All right. And if for whatever reason I don't get it done, then I won't ask you to do it. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I'm not going to do. That isn't fair. But let me quickly run mine and show you what it looks like. And then I'm going to take some time this morning and go over every page. All right. So mine is just called Books Final Project. This will not repeat. This will not be available as a GitHub repo. This is what you are supposed to be doing. All right. Now, when you look here, I have 27 books in my, call it a library or whatever, it doesn't matter. I have 4 books, 1, 2, 3, 4 by Mark Twain. I have 8 books, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 by J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter series. And I have 15 books, 13 through 27 from Dr. Seuss. Again, it's just what I decided. You don't have to, if you're going to do your own, great. All right. I've also got in here images of, let's see, those 4 people. So there's Dr. Seuss, there's J.K. Rowling, and there's Mark Twain. All right, let me close these. I don't need them for what I'm about to show you here. This is my details page. All right. And I've got 4 pages on mine. I've got 4 pages. I've got the splash screen, which I'm going to show you in a minute. The splash screen, from there, you can go either to the main page or the help page. From the help page, you can go either to the main page or back to the splash screen. From the main page, you can go either to the details page or to the help page or back to the main page or the splash page. So let's take a quick look at it and see how it runs. All right, let me bring up a code page on here. All right, so you can see everything on here. Now I should change the color of this. Maybe I will, because it's kind of ugly right now. These don't do anything. I was going to come in here and include, there's a URL control, but I was having problems with it. I just said, forget it. So I go to the main page here. And here I've got select an author. And notice if I come in here now and I don't have any name or ISBN chosen, I have no author name chosen, right? So if I click search, I get an error. It says no search value was provided. All right, you really would probably want to do something like that also. In the same way, if I both put a name in there, let's say, and I select an author and I click search, again, I get an error because the system's like, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to search by name or ISBN, or do you want me to do an author thing? So those are both error conditions. So having nothing in here or having them both filled in are both error conditions. But to show you, let's go over to select an author and I'll go to Dr. Seuss. Now nothing happens until I click search. And then there's my Dr. Seuss books. There are 15 of them. All right. Now, it doesn't do a thing other than that. Let's go. I'll click over here and notice what it does. It comes up then to the details page. And on the details page, you've got a picture of the book, the title of the book, the year the book was written, the ISBN number for the book, the author of the book. Now, this is not operational yet with the reviews. I'm going to try to look at that later. All right. But hopefully you can see that all of this works. Okay. So this is my splash screen. You should come up with something similar to this. If you don't like mine, hey, that's fine. If you want to use your own authors of books, that's fine. All right. But I'm going to show you virtually everything that I have done in this program thus far. All right, so let me exit. Now, what are you supposed to do? This is up to you. But for instance, this is my book class. All right, and if you said, gee, I don't even know how to do that, then I would come up and on your keyboard, up near the top of your keyboard, I would find a key that you have up there, should be on the right-hand side, that either has the word print screen on it or PRTSC on it. And with this up right now, I would click that button or hit that button, then go into a package such as Paint and paste it in, because that'll get you started as far as what you should do with this. All right. So you might look at that and say, well, that's fine. Why didn't you just give us the code? Because there's always something to be said for you to key in the code yourselves. I spent quite a bit of time on this. Now, could I have done it faster? Yes. But I spent a lot of time on this while I was doing other things. So I'd give it some time, I'd go do something else, or I'd have the TV on, I'd be watching a ball game or whatever. And that's on me. All right. But again, then taking this from the start, I have in here, I made, okay, when you look in here, I had in here, I had a class library. And for some reason, I was getting errors with it. So I removed the class library. All right. And I just put the classes themselves in here. I don't believe, and I'll look later to be sure, I don't believe I even used the validator class. I brought it in, but I don't believe I even used it. But taking this from the top, all right, this is the book class right here. So you can see literally right here, that's 100% of the class. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over. If you don't know what I'm doing, give me a second. I'm going to move this over. All right, there's everything. There's the class. Now I'm going to bring this up right here. All right. So when you look at your screen right now, and give me a second. That's pretty good. All right. So when I bring up the program and then I bring this up, you can see the correlation, hopefully. Now, when you look in here, you'll notice I put in a book ID and there's no book ID in here. Well, I believe that every table you create should have some kind of primary key, and that primary key should be what's known as being unintelligible. In other words, if somebody found that number, it wouldn't mean a whole heck of a lot. Now, you could come in and say, well, the ISBN is unique. Couldn't you have made that the primary key? And the answer is yes, we could have. The reason I did not is typically primary keys are set up so they are integer fields and have the word ID in them someplace. So I started by creating a book class. And as you can see, the book class has, all right, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields in it. I took the reviews out. It was giving me a bunch of problems. All right. Like I said, I want you to be able to do something to create this or some reasonable facsimile of this that you can ideally put in your portfolio. This is the kind of project that ideally will help land you a job. All right. So you can see there is a lot of correlation, but not total. I've got an ID. There's no ID here. I don't have a reviews. There's a reviews here. The rest of the stuff pretty much looks the same. I've got a string property for ISBN. I've got a string property for book name. I've got a string property for author name. I've got an integer property for publish year. And I've got what I made a string property for the image. In addition, I've got a constructor that doesn't do anything. In fact, let me even move this up so you can see. I want to make sure you can see everything on here. All right. So again, hopefully at least you agree these two are not identical to one another, but they are very similar in nature. Also, if you look, you'll notice that other than the ID, the ISBN, the author name, the book name, the publisher year, and the images all have question marks after the type. So string question mark or int question mark. Now, even though we're not allowing nulls into the database, all right, that basically keeps you from getting warnings that the value could possibly be null. So in other words, if I come in here and I remove this, typically I'm going to get some underline. It might come right away and it might not. All right. Now, the other thing that you can do right there, if you don't want to do that, is we could have come in here and said here equals string.empty. So there are a lot of different ways that you are able to come in here and handle this. So this was the first class that I created. All right. All right. And again, there's some using statements at the top. As you can see, these are all grayed out. I probably didn't even need these. The system put those in. I did not. So the namespace is books. The class name is book. Okay. So that's the first one. Then next, as we keep taking a look through here, we've got a reviews class. That's even simpler. And you'll notice in this case, not only did I add the question mark, but I did say equals string.empty. And again, this review class, all right, if I come back in here and show you the picture from the test or the project, bring that up, and that's this. So let's grab that. And what I'm showing you in here is the way I'm doing things. I am by no means suggesting, yeah, you should always do things the way I do them because they're the best way. No, I would never say that because it isn't true. All right, but this is how I implemented what was in here. Again, even not shown in our diagram here, I added an ID field. I could have called it review ID, but I just called it ID. All right, and it's an integer. Notice I also put in there a thing called book number. That book number will correspond to the book ID, which is in the other table. Did you have to do that? Well, I'm doing this because if you remember, I pulled out that list of books that I had in here. I haven't implemented this yet, so I'm not sure if I'll need it or not. All right, there's the review text. All right, I haven't overridden the string. I could, and that would look like this, just public override string to string. All right, and now I'm just going to return nothing for right now, just so it's overridden. Okay, so I did put that override in there. So pretty much as far as I know, I have now implemented everything that's in here. Again, I added a little bit of my own stuff in here. All right. Now, the next one I'm going to show you, I'm going to spend a bit of time on. And that's the last class that is in here. Again, I don't think I need that validator class, but this is what's called my book context class. Again, you may want to go in and take screenshots of what I'm doing right here. By no means am I trying to tell you what to do, just so you know. If you think I can get this by myself, or hell with it, I ain't doing it. That's your call. That's not my call. So this was the books. This was the reviews. So now, and again, I like I said, I don't even think I need validator. Close that. All right. So the next one I'm going to bring up in here is I'm going to bring up this book context class. Now, I want to mention a couple things about it from the get-go. First of all, when I put the word public in here, I got an error in my code. I changed it to the word internal. I got an error in my code. So I left it off, period. All right. In order for you to be able to get this to even work, all right, you are going to have to come in here, and you are going to have to come in and go in and say tools, NuGet package manager, and you're going to have to go to manage NuGet packages for solution. And in here, you can see I have these two packages loaded. I would recommend that you load the Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.Tools packages first. Then you load the Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.SQL Server package. How do you do that? Well, with this open, you go over to Browse, and you can either look through here for all those, or you can come up in the search bar here and type in Microsoft Entity Framework and find the tools and find the SQL Server. You can see one's right above the other one. Looks like they're in alphabetic order. Or maybe not. I don't even know. But if I go to Tools, once you do that, you will come over here and check both of these and then click the install button. And actually, if you just check this one, it'll check the other one and check the install button. It might come up with two different dialogues. Click the OK button, then click the I accept button. Then do the same thing with Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. Now, I mentioned this to you earlier, but I'm saying it again. When you start, so let's suppose for a second, you're like, geez, I haven't even started this flaming project yet. Please make sure that when you do start this project, that you go to create new project, do not choose Windows Forms Framework. Windows Forms App.NET Framework. Do not choose that one. Rather, choose the Windows Forms app without the .NET framework. Why? Because once you give it a name, and I'm just going to call it hello, I'm not going to keep this anyway, but once you give it a name and a place where you want this to be held, so to speak, housed, and you click next, it's going to come up and it's going to show you in here that you can either use .NET Core 3.1, .NET 6.0, or .NET 7.0. I use .NET 7.0 on mine. I'd recommend you do the same. When you come in and you choose, instead of Windows Forms app, you choose Windows Forms app, and then in parentheses, .NET Framework, you can't choose the .NET 7.0 without spending about an hour or two changing all sorts of internal file configurations. I know because I tried to do it, and it's a real pain, but doing it this way is much easier. So you will choose 7.0. Now, there's a downside to doing this. I would recommend that whenever you do anything then in your project, you save it. Because what can, C-A-N, what can happen is, for whatever reason, these Windows Forms apps, I'm not even going to say they're quirky, they're screwy. You know, I built a whole interface for one page, and boom, I went to run it and nothing came up. It's just a blank form came up. And I went back and looked at it, and everything, basically my code was there, but the interface was gone and it wouldn't run. So I had to go back and rebuild the interface. Why? I don't have a clue. But these are things that you might run into, just so you're aware of it. All right, I'm going to back up here, back up here, back up there, and I'm going to just quit. All right. So the next one that I want to show you then in here, and it's pretty long. Oh, after you put these in and you get these two packages in, I would recommend that you close this, then reopen it, go over to installed, and make sure the two packages are shown there. Because occasionally, even that it's installed them, it has not. All right. Just the software can be quirky, for lack of better words. I don't know why. All right. So this is the DB context class. I'm going to give you this. This in here, the key thing in here are these lines, because those are my reviews, and these lines, because those are my books. All right. And what you would notice, this stuff that's in here in lines 18 through line 105, those are known as seed data. So I am seeding the database with this data. What does that mean? That means that if I come over to here and I open my database, and we'll talk about how you get that in a minute. But when I open it up, I've got a database that I call BooksDB. You can call it whatever you want. All right. And I've got two tables in there, three really, this migration history, and you should never touch that one. But there's my books. And you'll notice if I say view data, there's my 27 books. I can't make this any bigger. I can widen it out so you can see all the stuff that's in there, but I cannot make this any bigger. All right. So it has my book ID, my ISBN, my author name, my book name, my publish year, and my image. All right. And what is that? You already know this. All right. That if I open up my books.cs file, that's these things right here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields here. And if I open this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields here. In addition to that, and I'm going to close this. All right. I've got the other table, which is my reviews table. And if I view the data on that, there's only 3 fields. Why? Because there were only 3 fields in review.cs. ID, book number, and review text. All right. And again, I realize this is kind of hard to read, but it's the ID, the book number, and the review text. Now, what I did for these reviews, if I get these to work, they're going to look really stupid. I'm just telling you that right now. I went out to a sentence generator. You can go out online and generate almost anything you want. But I asked in here for 54 sentences to be generated. I think you can go up to 50 or something like that. So a couple of them might be duplicates. And then I even cut them down so they were pretty short. But I mean, a review of a book that's something like she did her best to help him is kind of a stupid review. But I wanted to have something in there. I didn't want to have to type it in myself. So these are the 54 different IDs, 2 for each of the 27 books. These are the books that the IDs map up to. And I just went backwards in my numbering. So instead of going from 1 to 27, I would have had 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. I thought that could be confusing. So I went 127, 226, all the way down to 27, 1. And I probably, then way too. So now it's 28, 27, 29, 26, down to 54, 1. So I now have my 2 tables in my books DB database. All right. And I showed you again how each table has been set up. So when we look at this, and I'm going to give you this file. This is one of the ones I will give you. So you don't have to painstakingly type in all this garbage that I did. You must have this line at the top. You will not be able to even put that line in until you go into, as I showed you, until you go into the NuGet package manager and you install those 2 packages. If you don't do that, this line will come up as an error. It will not allow it. You can do the using Microsoft, but when you type in the dot, the entity framework core will not be available to you. All right. This class, and I mentioned that before, don't make it public, don't make it private, don't make it internal. Just the word class. This is a context class. This is the class that we are going to use to take our C# code and connect it to our SQL Server database. That's the idea behind this class. All right. So it must inherit from DB context. These are the 2 tables that we are about to create. So we have what's called a set in here, a DB or database set, one that's called book, and it's of type book. All right. And that book right there has to map up with the name of the class. We have a class called book.cs. The other one, we have a class called review.cs. And you can notice that they're both singular, but the names of the tables are plural with an S on the end. That's typically the way this is done. Again, I will give you this file. Now, if you decide, heck with you, I got my own, I've started this already. I've got my own books. I've got my own authors. That's fine. You don't have to use this information that I'm putting in here. All right. So this, as I said, this is basically going to set it up, and it lets the system know that what's shown down below this, we're going to have 2 tables that we want you to create. One that's based off of a book class that's called books, one that's based off of a review class that's called reviews. All right. Then in this context file, you must put in there 2 different methods, an on configuring method and an on model creating method. The on figuring method, as it says, it shows you how your database connection is going to be set up. I'm making it small, I'll make it bigger in a second. But basically, That's everything. There's a semicolon on the end of line 13. It says options builder, which is this, use SQL server. So that's the relational database management system we are using for this application. This is the server we're using. When you put in there for the server equal in parentheses local DB, then // MSSQL local DB, that says what we're using in here is our own machine is acting as a server. That's exactly what that's saying. So if you were to try to put this out onto a server, if you work for a company, you would have to change this to whatever that company server's name was. All right. Then next, we have the name of our database. Database equal, and I just called it books DB. I could have called it books or books database. DB is kind of a standard shortcut for saying database. That's why I use that. All right. Then this trusted connection and this multiple active result sets, they're just boilerplate code. There's stuff you have to add. It says basically we trust what we're doing. And even though we don't have multiple people working on here, it says we have the ability to do that. All right. So that is used again in on configuring to set up your connection string. And again, you'll notice if I put my mouse on it, a bunch of information there. Now you might find that helpful. You might find that really confusing. Take a look at it. If it helps you, great. And if it doesn't, fine. The order in which I put these two in didn't matter. All right, it didn't matter. So I put the reviews in first. Remember, each review had an ID. It had a book number it was associated with and the review text. There's 54 of these. I wanted to take book number and make it the same name as book ID. But then the system was confused. What's your primary key? Is it the ID or would it have been book ID? Well, I wanted it to be ID, so I did it like this. All right, so this is in the on model creating. All right, so here again, what we're actually doing is we're creating our database table data. That's what we're doing. Okay, we're letting the system know. So really, when you look at it, because what we talked about, if you remember, a few weeks ago, when we started on databases, we went into MySQL and we went into working with PHP-MyAdmin. And if you remember that, I want to show this to you. All right, so with this PHP-MyAdmin that we were using a few weeks ago, when you came in here, all right, there's no books database. I didn't make one, but we had that Acme widget database that we used. All right, we had 3 tables and one of them was employee. These are the records. These are the equivalent, basically, of this and of this. All right. And if I go back again and I go and click here on structure, that's the schema, if you remember. But we're setting the schema up in code. So in other words, the schema for reviews is basically the review.cs file. And the schema for books is the books.cs file. All right, what I'm trying to do here, and I don't know how successful I am or am not being with it, but I'm trying to tie everything together here. All right, so going back then to that book context, for each one of our reviews, each review has an ID, a book number, and review text. All right, the ID is different on each one because hopefully you remember the ID is the primary key. Anytime you create a table and you've got a field with ID in it, whether it's ID all by itself like this, or whether it's part of something like we've got book ID here, the system SQL server will automatically make that particular field the primary key. Okay. Okay. So then we've got our 54 review ID numbers, the 27 different books that these apply to, and our 54 reviews. Then when I go down a little further, it's a similar thing. It's a similar thing, but it's our books. So each time we create a book, that book must have a unique ID. I have 27 books, and that goes by what we were told in the requirements. We were supposed to have one author who had less than 5 books. That's Mark Twain. He's got 4. We were supposed to have one author that had between 5 and 10 books, and that was J.K. Rowling. She has 8. And we were supposed to have one author that had between 10 and 15 books. That was the 15 for Dr. Seuss. That's how I came up with those numbers. If you add 15 plus 8 plus 4, you get 27. That's how I came up with this. And I actually did take the time. Don't ask me why, maybe because I'm an idiot, but these are the actual ISBN numbers, the actual authors, and the only thing I think that I changed in here was, for some reason, instead of county, I put CTY in there. Everything else that's in here should be totally correct. All right. So the fields that are in here, that's the integer for the ID. That's the string for the ISBN, the string for the author name, the string for the book name, an integer for the year it was published, and the image. And the images that are there, like the 0, 1, etc., those images are what you see up here under images, and I've got book images. So this first one is right here. All right. So if I bring that up, there is the celebrated frog, jumping frog of whatever it is, Calaveras County or something like that. All right. Again, these are the images that I want to show. So as I showed you before, when I come in here and I run the book, or I run this, I should say. So I come in and I try to run the program. All right. In fact, let me stop the run. I'll start it up right away just in just a second. But this is the ISBN for that book. All right. So if I come in here and go to main page and select an author, and I put in Mark Twain, and I search in here by ISBN, that should give me, oops, I've got them both selected. It gives me an error like it should. I don't need to select an author. I just come in and put an ISBN in. Put that in. There's my information, the celebrated jumping frog. If I click on it, there's everything. So again, I get the book title or the book image. I get the book title. I get when the book was published. I get the ISBN number. I get the author name. So you can see by and large, most of the stuff in here works. Again, sometime later today, all right, I'm going to, those of you, and there's been a couple of you who have emailed me and said, hey, I turned in this and you haven't graded it. I'm going to grade those. All right. And I'm also going to try to implement the review part. If I get the review thing implemented by tomorrow, that's what I will show you tomorrow on the lecture. If I try and either fail to do it or something goes wrong or something unexpected happens, then I'll just leave it at that. And I'll remove from here this review this book, this and this. All right, which will change my interface, but that's fine. All right. All right. So, like I said, I will give you this file. Don't worry about copying it or anything else. I am expecting you to be able to go in and you to be able to either by taking what I showed you there and making a screenshot and what I showed you there and making a screenshot, all right, that you can put those in yourselves and create a book class or a book class, and a review class, that you can do both of those. Then I will give you the context. All right, so you will have that. Now, let's go in and let's start talking about what's in this program then. What else? Well, let me close this because I don't need this anymore. All right. And if I come in here then and go into my program, what you're going to see, first of all, let's bring up the splash page. All right, let me close this and bring up, I just called it FRM Splash, and there it is. Now, does yours have to look like this? All right, no, it doesn't. All right, in fact, as I bring these pages up, I'm going to see, because I'm thinking that I can make them resonate a little bit better. So I'm going to do it like this. I don't know if that reads better or worse. To me, it's a little easier on the eyes. All right. I will expect each and every one of you to come in and make some kind of a splash page. In addition, from that splash page, all right, which should have images on it. If you want to put a book by Mark Twain there and a book by J.K. Rowling there and a book by Dr. Seuss there, for example, that's fine. Do it whatever way you want. All right. But you should also have buttons in here that allow you to go from the splash page to the main page, from the splash page to the help page, and from the splash page to allow you to exit. In addition, you should provide both those options as well as part of a menu. Now, if you look at the text for this, or the code rather, it's not a lot. Again, all these are gray, so I probably don't even need them. I didn't put them in, the system did. So if we look at what's in here, again, if you want to take a screenshot, do it, and if you don't, don't. There's when I click the main page button. There's when I choose the main page menu item. So both of these right here are calling this routine. And what is this routine doing? It's hiding the current form, which is my splash screen. It is creating a new instance of the main page form, and then it's showing that new instance of the main page form. Then I do the exact same thing, but instead of using the main page, I'm now using the help form. All right. So again, this will call it from the button. This will call it from the menu item. And we're doing the same thing. The only thing that's different is rather than creating or instantiating a new main form, we're instantiating a help form and showing it. And then our exit is pretty much what we've been doing, the old exit program or not. And that is again done both from the button and from the menu item. And there's the exit program or not. Nothing new in there. So I have now shown you first, I showed you the book class. Next, I showed you the review class. Next, I showed you the context file, which I said I'll send to you. All right. And now I have shown you both graphically the GUI for my main page, or I'm sorry, the GUI for my splash page and the code for my splash page. All right. So that's the splash. So the next one, because it's the easiest, is going to be the help page. So let's look at that one. And again, I'm going to change the colors in here. Okay. This one is pretty darn simple. What I did again was I went back to here. And basically I grabbed all of the text that you see, not this, but all of the text that you see up to about here, virtually all of it. I removed where it said like -4 points, -6 points. I removed all that stuff. And then what I did was, let's take a quick look. I did everything in my form load. I called build help string. And what the heck is that? What is help string, help str? I define it up here globally. So this again is my global variable. I didn't have to make it global. I just did. This is my help string because it's going to put basically all the verbiage in here. All right. So in form load, I called build help string, which is adding all that stuff that I just showed you. All right. And then after I build it, I set my label to that. So again, there shouldn't be anything surprising here that if I run the program and I click on help, that's what I get. Again, these are basically the requirements of the program. And again, I can come in here and I can go back. There you go. Or I can come in here and do it like this. Okay. And then go back again. Or like this. And then go back again. All right. So that is the second one of these. All right. So what's next? Well, next is the main page. All right. That may be the hardest for you to get working. So again, I'm going to come in here and I'm just like I did before. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the coloring so that the background color will be that purple. Okay, and these two things will be the darker purple. AV, whatever the heck that color is. There. All right, one thing I want to do here is search by name or ISBN. I'm just going to change the name of that to LBL search by ISBN because that's all I really want to be able to do. So that's now called search by ISBN. And the code that's in there is also now just search by ISBN. And I'm only doing that because I think that without having that in there, it's more confusing. All right. So again, we'll look at it in a second, but let me save this as I've already shown you, but I want to show you again. So again, now you have seen the main page. You have seen the help page. All right. I'm sorry. You have seen the splash screen. You have seen the help screen. But the main page looks like this. It's actually pretty simple. All right. Just a moment. These two labels, text box, combo box, button, 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 and a data grid view. So again, I come in here and I choose J.K. Rowling. I click search. It should come up and show me all the J.K. Rowling books. I pick one of those. All right. If I pick one of those, boom, it brings me over here. You can see I've got to change the color. All right. And I thought that I had this set up and maybe I didn't. It's no biggie. All right. All right. See if I grab another one. Yeah, it still looks terrible. Okay. So let's look at the code that does this. Again, take screenshots. If you don't want to, remember it or go back and watch the video again later. All right, but here's the code. Now, you can see it's getting up there, 270 lines. All right, and there's not a lot of comments in here, but this is what I have. Here's 27 or 10% of those lines, really 30 with everything. That's the path to each one of my image files. All right. I also created so that's a string array with all my images in it. This is a string array with all my authors in it. So this is what I used to fill up the combo box. Now I think in the requirements they said they wanted that filled up with a like a link query. I didn't do that. All right. Did I break rules? Sure I did. All right. I mean, there were times when I was working on this, I just thought, geez, I just want this thing to work. All right. And it still isn't perfect, but it's getting there. All right. Now, I don't need this list of reviews, so I can remove that. So taking it from the top, this book data, notice it's of type book context. That is bringing in, or going to allow us to bring in a minute, that class we created called book context, the one with all of our information in it. All right. So that's allowing us, for lack of better words, to go in and do that. Get rid of the help stuff. So that's what this is. This is going to be our list of actual books, which, not to be funny or whatever, I called it book list. All right. Again, these are the author names. So this is used to fill up the combo box on the main page form. So when I run the program and I go to main page, that's the names right there. Select an author, Mark Twain, J.K. Rowling, and Dr. Seuss. I'm getting that from right here. When I run the program again, when I run it, and I come in and I go to main page and I select an author and I choose Dr. Seuss and search, and it shows me the 15 Dr. Seuss books. And I find this Hop on Pop and I click there. All right, I'm going to have to do something about fixing the size of those. All right. But it gives me that information. All right. So that's those images. That's where they're coming from. The 27 different book pictures are right here. And how did I get those? How did I know what that path, etc. was? I went to the first one. Doesn't matter which one you choose, but I went to the first one and I right mouse clicked and I chose copy full path. When I do that, all right, I'm just going to show you right here. That's the same as this first one that we put in here. And now that I look at that, it looks like I've got two dots here. Nope, I don't. Now, I don't have actually an image that's not available. I do have a photo for not available, but it should never be called. There's that no image available. So, as mentioned, I come in here and what am I doing? All right, I am coming in here and I am creating, these are my two global variables. When I say global, they're global to the class. Or to this form. Right there. Then I create a string array with my 3 authors plus select an author in there. All right, and then I've got my string array with 27 book images in it. All right, hopefully, like I said, hopefully that makes sense. All right, okay. Then we come in here and at the top, we create a new book context that we call book data. Basically, this is going to hold all of our information. Then in the page load, we fill up the combo box. What does that mean? When we load the page, we're going to fill up the combo box. Well, if you come down here, wherever it is, let's see. Well, right here. This is, we'll add the 3 author names plus the select and author option to the combo box. All right, so it is filling up the combo box. Then I make sure that it's set to select an author when I start. Now these I'm not going to run over because we've done them before. This will allow you to go to the splash screen and there it is. This will allow you to go to the help screen and there it is. This is our exit menu or not. There it is. So if you notice here, I'm on 138 and the rest of the stuff that's in here, okay, is about 150 lines. So let's go through all of it. All right. So this is what happens when the search button is clicked. I call a routine I wrote called check for no input. So this is check for nothing entered into ISBN search text box and nothing entered into author name combo box. That's exactly what it's doing. Check for no input. Now I could have come in here, I'm sure, and done an is valid and used the validator, but it was only one thing I'm checking and that's why. So like I said, I think at least I don't need validator programs. I'm going to right mouse click on it and I'm going to choose delete and say yes. And it's gone and the program should still run just fine. All right. So when I come in here and check for no input, that's down here. There's the whole routine, check for no input. So I'm saying if the combo box is empty and either there's nothing selected at all, I'm sorry, if the text box is empty, all right, or if that is either set to select an author or set to nothing, then there's nothing to search for. So as you can see in the show message that I provided, it says no search value provided. There was nothing provided. All right. So if it's still valid, that one of the two text boxes, either there was something in the text box or there was something in the combo box, unfortunately, or both. So we check for too much input. Too much input means that there's both. All right, so no input here. This will do what? Check for nothing in the text box and check for nothing in the combo box. That's no input. Too much input is basically the opposite. So it looks very similar, but the check, of course, would be different. So here we're checking for something in the text box, and we're checking for something in the combo box. They can't both have a value in there. So this says if the text box isn't empty and I've selected an author, I don't know what to search on. So we put in a show message that says you cannot both enter a text box input and a combo box input. In other words, as it says there, too many search values have been provided. So if I run this and I go to the main page, if there's nothing in either one of these and I click search, that's the first error. If I check an author and I put something in here, even though that's garbage, I get the other error, too many. All right. Okay. So that came in, and first it went in and it checked for nothing input. Then it checked for both inputs, which is wrong. But if I'm still down here, then I've got something in here, either I've got something in my text box and I don't have any author checked, or I have nothing in my text box and I have an author checked. Right? So I check first and I say, okay, if that's the case, if the search by name or ISBN is not empty, I know which one I want to call. Perform the title or ISBN check. Otherwise, I want to perform the author check. So if this is the case, I want to check what is input into the text box. And if this is the case, I want to check what is chosen in the combo box. So perform, and I really should just change that, but it works. I'm not going to monkey anymore with it. This should really just be called perform ISBN check because that's all I'm doing. And here's our perform author check. All right. Now, did I cheat a little bit? Yeah, I did in here. And I want to show you exactly what I did and what I mean by saying I cheated in here. All right. So here was the ISBN. I'm assuming because there's different ways that you can do ISBNs. I'm assuming that every ISBN that we have, the first four characters in there are 978 hyphen. All right. If the first four characters are not 978 hyphen, I'm going to give you an error message that says you put in an invalid ISBN. I'm going to clear it out. But if I get down to here, I know that it's a valid ISBN. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean there's a matching ISBN, but the ISBN that we put in there was validly formed. Put that in there, a validly formed ISBN. So it's 978 followed by something. So what I'm doing here is I'm running a link query. And I'm saying, hey, select everything from books where the ISBN that I entered is the ISBN in the text box. Put it into a list because that you need to do that to put it into the data grid view. Again, this is not the only way of doing this. This is how I did it. All right, so that's doing the check for the title or ISBN. Then for the author, it's a similar type of situation. All right, I took what was in the combo box and I grabbed the text from it. This line was actually much harder than I thought it was going to be. I had to Google it and look at a bunch of different things because the selected text for the combo box, which is what I thought I'd use, didn't work. All right, I had to do it like this. But just like before, this says if we've selected an author. So what are we doing here? We're writing another query. We're saying select everything from books where the author name that we selected in the dropdown is equal to the author name in the database, and fill up the data grid view with the results. There's our show message, nothing big there. All right. Now, this was different. I did this last night when I got home. All right. And I don't expect this to even totally make sense, but let's go over it anyway. And again, as always, if it helps you, a screenshot. Okay, this says when I click on any cell in my data grid view, call this. What I wanted to be able to do was to pass information from the main page. So from this page right here, I wanted to pass it to this page here. Oh, we got that up. Let's change the color of that so all of them have been changed then. So I wanted to be able to pass information back and forth. All right. And so I Googled it. I Googled how do you pass information back and forth between forms because I couldn't remember how you did it. All right. And they gave you 3 or 4 different ways. And I chose the one that, in my humble opinion, was not only the easiest way to do this, but it was also the most, I don't even know what you call it, probably the most intuitive. Now, the reason those pictures look so funky is in here, I had checked and set the size mode in here, right here, to auto size, which means it should size itself based on the actual size of the image. I don't want that. I'm going to change it to stretch image. All right. All right. So just so you know here, what I am doing in here is I am going through this. All right. I am going through this and I am showing for your final project what I did. And for those of you who just joined, just to show you, when I run this, this is my splash or home page. I click help. I went in and I grabbed all of the code or all of the requirements for the test. That's that. Then we've got a main page that looks like this. And if we select an author, for example, Mark Twain, and I click search, it shows me the 4 Mark Twain books I have in here. And if I choose, for example, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and I click, it brings that up. All right. So is this working? The answer is not totally. I don't have the review stuff working yet. I'm going to work on that later today. If for some reason I cannot get it to work, I'm just going to scrub that part from the requirements. You won't have to do it. If I don't get it to work, I'm not going to make you do it. Right? And if I do get it to work, then tomorrow morning, just like this, I'll go in and I'll show you what I've done. All right. So jumping back then, we're in our main page. And as I said before, I went in and Googled online, how can I take information that I have in one form and copy it? So this is the information here, and it's in on my main page. I wanted to copy that information from my main page to my details page. So this is how I did it. What this is doing right here, this right here, that is going to come in and fill up, or I should say, create variables based on the currently selected data grid view row. Right there. That's what that's doing. All right, and I had to do some weird stuff in to convert some stuff back and forth. This is using the images, and I want to make sure I grab the right image for the right book. Now, where it was a little tricky was down here. All right. What is that doing? This is creating variables which will be used in the FRM details form. We have not looked at something like this before. So here we are creating variables in the FRM main page form, which, as it says, will be used in the other form. How do we do that? First thing we do is we create a new instance of the other form, but we don't show it yet. We create a new instance of the other form. Then we have the name of the form, details, dot, ISBN, book name, etc., all that stuff. Then we show it. But in order for that to work, you will have to go into your details page, and at the top of the page, oops, that isn't details, I'm sorry. Let's find details. At the top of it, you will have to create those variables. They'll have to have the same name, and they must say public. Public is the key word. That means they're shareable. We can share them between these two things. I also don't need these images in here. They're in the other one, so I can get rid of that, which cuts down the size pretty much of this particular routine. All right, so going back to my main page, taking it quickly from the top. All right, We created our context. We created our list of books. We filled up our combo box by using what was in this particular string array. We filled up the correct image on our details page by what's in here. Then we came in and set up a new book context. In the page load event, all we're doing, as it says, is we're filling the combo box simply by doing this routine right here, which has got both that for loop to do that, and it also sets the selected index to 0, and 0 is select an author. All right. Then for our splash screen, whether it's from our button or from our menu item, we call go to splash screen, which hides the current form, creates a new instance of the splash screen form, and shows that instance. For help, same thing. Whether it's from the button or whether it's from the menu item, all right, it hides the current form, instantiates or creates a new instance of the help form, and shows it. Our button is our BTN exit, which is our exit program or not, which either from the button or from the menu item, and it's the one we've been using virtually all semester. And then this was the one that had a little more work. And I tried to put some comments in there so you could see what I was doing. Right? So we check for nothing in either one, nothing in the text box, and nothing in the drop down or combo box. All right. That's checking for nothing. That's checking for both of them being filled. And if that's not the case, then we want to find out, was it the text box they entered something into, or was it the combo box they've entered something into? If there was no input, we just gave them a message saying you can't have no input, you must choose one or the other. If they choose both, we gave them a different message that says you can't choose both. Then we check to make sure that the first 3 digits in the text box were 978 hyphen. If they were not, we just wrote back and said it was not a valid ISBN. We cleared out what was in there and set the focus and returned. Otherwise, as it says, it was a validly formed ISBN. So we came in, wrote our link query. As it says, we want to find the record whose ISBN matches the one entered in the text box. Just like that. And I probably skipped the other one. Where is that? Too much. All right, so that was this. And again, that is the query right there. Otherwise, it's the author one. So again, now we want to write a link query to find the database record whose author name matches the one entered or chosen from the combo box. Just like that. And regardless, again, we want to write the results out to the data grid view. And we're doing that both here and we're doing it up here. All right. There's our show message, nothing new there. Fill up global variables is what I just showed you. Create variables based on the currently selected data grid row. And then we want to create variables that we're able to pass from one form to the other. All right. And then finally, as we go in, let me close this and close this. And I'm going to go into the details page, which is right here. Now you'll notice, or maybe you notice, I want to show you two things. First, on here, this was the picture. So that's the picture that should show. That's the book. And I changed the size mode. I changed the size mode to stretch image. Originally, I had it to auto size. What that meant was if I had a really big image, it would stretch on the screen and it looked pretty ugly. All right. But auto size, basically, that's what that does. Stretch image will stretch it so it takes up all the area in the box, which is what I wanted. The other thing, and I didn't mention it earlier, but I want to quickly say this to you. It's not a big thing, but in here for the data grid view, I went into the data grid view and I went into the, let's see, where is it? There. I went into the auto size columns mode and I said fill, which is on the bottom. What that means is this is going to fill the whole thing up. Maybe you've done this if you've only got a couple, if you only have a couple fields in here and this is too big and you get a bunch of gray area, which looks pretty ugly. By choosing fill in there like I did, it's going to make sure that this spaces everything out so my output looks nice. What I mean is this. So if I come through there and I go to main page and I select an author and I select Mark Twain and I click search, you can see how it takes up everything. And virtually, I believe each one of the fields are now the same size. Otherwise, you sometimes get cases where it looks, well, that's the problem with me doing it like that. I shouldn't have monkeyed with it. But if you don't use fill, you get a bunch of gray area, right? I didn't want that. Okay, so to kind of bring this thing hopefully to almost to fruition here, this is the details page. It's pretty ugly. And again, if I cannot make this work by tomorrow, I will remove this past reviews. I will remove this text box. This is where it shows the past reviews, and that's the submit button to enter a new review. All right, plus this thing that says review this book. So if I have to, all of that stuff will be gone tomorrow. All right, and if that's the case, I might rearrange what's on the screen a little bit so it looks nicer. But let's take a look at the code that's associated with all of this. Again, this is all system stuff. We can probably remove it. This, as I mentioned, these are the variables that have been set in the FR form, and for lack of better words, we'll say passed to this form. They must be public in here so we can go back and forth between them. All right. I'm not going to go over how to go to the splash screen, how to go to the main page, how to go to the help screen, because we've talked about those already. I'm not going to talk about the exit button. We've talked about that already. All right. So you'll notice in here, not a lot left. Fill up fields. So this says when the form loads, what are we doing? We're basically taking and bringing in all of the information we already had in here. We've got 5 pieces of information: ISBN, book name, author name, publish year, and IMG. And when we look here, IMG, book name, publisher year, ISBN, and author name. The orders in here have to map up with the orders on the previous page, putting stuff in order. So again, when I run this and I come in here and I choose main page, and I come in here and choose an author, J.K. Rowling, and I search, I get the 8 J.K. Rowling books. If I grab here, which I think is the Goblet of Fire, there it is. All right, Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire, when it came out, the ISBN number, the author. All right, and again, we'll have to work on this stuff for tomorrow. All right, so I did the best I could to both meet as many of the requirements, at least thus far, that I could, make it look as much like what is shown in the requirements, and set it up where I think you got to do some work on this. I don't deny that. All right. But I'm going to be done in about 5 or 10 minutes. So you will have today from quarter to 10 until 2:30. You'll have at least that much time tomorrow. And you'll have 6.5 hours on Wednesday, 6.5 hours on Thursday. If you add all those up, so today, what, 9:45? So you've got 10:45. You've got about 2 hours and 15 minutes today. You'll have probably 3.5 hours tomorrow. That's almost 6 hours. You'll have 6 hours, 6.5 on Wednesday, 6.5 on Thursday. So I'm dedicating about 20 hours out of the end of the course for you to work on this and to work on also your electronic portfolio. So I'm expecting them both to look pretty good. All right. So to just go back and one more time to review this, and then we're just going to call it a period. Okay. Like I said, today and tomorrow, if I get it done, I'm showing you my mostly complete final project. Again, I'm asking you to replicate as best you can what I've done. At a minimum, if you want to get some points for this, so if you're like, I'm just totally screwed up there, Jeff, I don't know what the hell to be doing on any of these. You all should be able to get the homepage working, built and working, get the help page built and working, get at least some of the main page. You should be able to build all of it and get at least some of it working. And you should be able to build the details page and get some of it working. If nothing else, being able to jump back and forth between the forms. All right. But if that's all you do, you're going to lose points. And if you think I'm being unfair, fine. Put that down on your course evaluation. All right. Again, later today, I'm going to be sending you, as I already mentioned, that context file. All right. And that'll give you something so you don't have to turn that in. I will also send you my image files. Right. The entire period. All right. Again, I cannot extend the due date any further than that. Technically, I found out I can turn in grades as late as Monday. Guess what? I'm not going to be here. Starting Friday, I'm on vacation for a week. I get 1 week and then we start the fall semester. So I'm not going to be around. And if I am around, when I go on vacation, I'll have my phone with me. I will not I will not have a computer with me. All right. Time for me to decompress, just like you needed, I needed as well. All right. So again, I have extended the due date for everything you got left to do, whether it's late stuff, this project that we're doing now, or your e-portfolio, 2:30 p.m. on Thursday. At that time, I'm going to start grading. Once I've got something graded, I'm not changing it after that. And again, as always, if you think that's unfair, please do a course evaluation. If you like this course and got something out of it, you either like my style or don't like my style, put that down. I look at all criticism as being constructive. Now, years ago, I this and just so you know, to all of these evals, they're all anonymous. I have no idea who said what. They don't show me the evals. They summarize everything and put down what they think are the most relevant comments that can help me as an instructor. But years ago, when I was at a different school and these things were done by paper, I had somebody write down, "I hate his voice." There's not much I can do about that. All right. But if somebody writes down, "Hey, I wish we would have gone over the PowerPoints for the book." And if I had 6 people in a class and all 6 of them said that, then there's at least a pretty good, if not a very good chance that the next time I would teach that class, I would do that. And I would go over the PowerPoints. All right. So again, finally, look at your current grades on Inside Rankin. For those of you who have already gotten a hold of me and emailed me saying you didn't grade this or this or this, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. All right. I'm going to be done by 9:45. That's going to give me some time today. And I'm going to try to grade those first before I do anything else. All right. So you should have an upgraded thing on Inside Rank and hopefully by noon. If you have any other work, or if you have not contacted me previously, if it's ungraded because either A, I missed it somehow, or B, you're turning it in, but you're turning it in late, you've got to email me. It is your responsibility if you make up late or missing work, all right, to email me and let me know that. It's not my responsibility to keep digging through your nose and saying, "Oh, so and so, I guess, must have got some new stuff in here." I just don't have the time to do that. Sorry about that. All right. Again, as it says, if you have missing or late work, I will accept it through 2:30 Thursday. What I will do at 2:30 on Thursday is I'm going to grab whatever is in your repo and make a copy of it. That's what I do. And that's what I'm going to be grading off of. So if you've got stuff missing and it's after 2:30, well, then it's missing. So it'll be put into the Inside Rankin as a 0. All right. Now there are some of you in this class. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't do that. But there are some of you in this class who are way behind. And what I mean is you've turned in nothing for the last 4 or 5 chapters. You're failing right now. That's not that's not a threat. That's just me being honest with you. So please go out to Inside Rankin, see indeed what is missing. Anything or everything that's missing, do the best you can to turn it in. Finally, as far as that goes, you know this already. The final project is worth 200 points or the equivalent of 2 tests. All right. And the electronic portfolio is worth 150 points or 1.5 tests. So even if you're in the D range right now, if you've got everything turned in, but you're in the D range, so to speak, if you get done both your final assignment, final project, and the e-portfolio, and they're both done pretty well, you might be able to lift yourself up to a C or maybe even a B. If you've got an F right now, and unfortunately we've got people with an F, you hopefully will be able to lift yourself up to a C. Nothing bothers me as an instructor. So Giggleman, none of us in this program would instruct. Nothing bothers us more than having to give somebody an F. And I really and truly mean that. But with that said, you have to give the student the grade the student has earned. So if the student didn't do some work is missing what, a lot of assignments or whatever, or if the quality of the work that they've done is not up to par and they have an F, then that's the grade they earned. We just happen to give them that grade, but we give grades based on what you have earned. All right. So with all of that, right now, I'm going to grade missing or late work that I have been told about. When I get done with that, I'm going to look and see if I can get that review stuff on our project to work. If I do get that to work, I'll probably be able to go over that tomorrow, and it would take no more than an hour, I would think. All right. So again, you now have 2 hours and 15 minutes today. You will have 3 hours plus tomorrow, 6.5 Wednesday, 6.5 Thursday. Between that and other time I've given you, you've had over 20 hours to work on this. So when people say, hey, you haven't been fair, then write that down on the course evaluation. All right. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thanks.